The cut, the vanish, the ghosting. Today we're talking about a dynamic that oftentimes arises in relationships with someone that has insecure attachment or attachment wounds that are kind of unresolved, going unmanaged. And this is what it looks like from the outside. From the outside, it looks like they're here, we're talking, we are interacting, and there's a minor disagreement, might be a major disagreement, but still there's some kind of conflict. And then poof, they're gone. And they don't respond to phone calls. They don't text back. They might block you. They don't hang out anymore. They don't reach out. They don't respond in any way. They don't show up. Like in extreme cases, they don't even show up at shared events. It's like they just vanish from existence. Okay? That's what it looks like from the outside. Many people consider this ghosting. They will describe this as ghosting, and that's a fair description of the situation. The person was here one moment, and then suddenly they become a ghost, and they're not here anymore. Now, there's a lot of different situations and dynamics that would motivate a person to just cut off everything like that. I'm going to talk about one particular flavor of this. In much of the reading that I've done over the years, this particular flavor is most closely associated with fearful avoidant, but I don't think there's any kind of like grand, deep scientific study on that. I think that's more like anecdotal impressions by people that have worked with a lot of people that have attachment wounds. So this is by no means an indictment or anything like that. It's just that this is the kind of thing that a lot of people talk about being associated with the fearful avoidant or disorganized attachment style. Okay. And what a lot of people think is going on is that something happened in that last conflict. I don't have a clear understanding of what happened and why it was so critical or a crisis for that other person. And I'm in a state of confusion. And I wish I understood. I wish I knew what they were going through, or I wish they would communicate with me. I wish they would tell me what I did wrong. Okay, so I'm actually going to start this on the outside, because this is a dynamic I've seen many times in people that are dealing with this. They were in a relationship and suddenly that relationship is apparently over. They don't have any clear communication or verbal agreement that it is over. The end of the relationship was not announced. It is simply that person vanished. Now, when that person vanishes, you can pretty much count on the fact that that relationship's over. Or even if it's not, it is on some kind of critical life support, and the outlook does not look good. So another thing to clear up here is that this isn't necessarily just romantic. It can be friendships too. Happens oftentimes with friendships, actually. Because people that are dealing with this inner pain that I'm about to talk about will experience that in friendships and relationships and family and work, et cetera, right? It's basically all interpersonal relationships are subject to this challenge. So the person on the outside is like, hey, I was in this relationship with my girlfriend, and then we had this disagreement over where we're going to spend the holidays or something. And it kind of got hot, and then we kind of went and took our space, and then she just didn't call me back, or she suddenly moved out, or blocked my number, or whatever. Whatever it was, the perception on the receiving end is that the magnitude of the steps the other person took was way disproportionate to the level of conflict that they had. That's the perception from the outside. And because we're humans, and we all do this, we basically take our perception of the situation as if it is a high likelihood of being true or accurate. And so from my perception on the outside, there's this gigantic disproportionate reaction. And so there's something amiss here. And the thing that is amiss clearly came from the other person. So what's wrong? They did something wrong. They handled this wrong. This is a unjust way of handling it. This is a unethical way of handling it. This is a cruel way of handling it. I've heard that one too. Now, underneath that, there's some very interesting shells, rocks we can uncover, because something we hear all the time, at least I've heard it all the time, is that there's this thought spinning in their brain. What did I do wrong? What did I do wrong? Tell me what I did wrong. I could do it better. Like if I had just known, ... If I had just, if you had just, if things had just been differently, I would have performed differently so that this didn't happen, so that I didn't lose the connection that I care about. Right? That is already uncovering the fact that here we are on the outside, and it's uncovering our attachment wounds. Why does someone else doing the sudden cut or ghosting or vanishing act, why does that have any conclusion about my worthiness or my right and wrong in the matter? Right? That's a conclusion we leap to. That's a pretty big assumption. Now, it's true. Sometimes we did behave in a way that we don't like. And sometimes we can, identify that even without that person. We can say, well, I kind of acted like a jerk in these ways and I was selfish in those ways. And I can see why they might have been feeling a little bit of pressure. That's cool. That's a great skill. We don't need the other person to be involved for us to go through that process. We can go through that process and get a lot of benefit from it, even if that person never appears again. Okay, so then we got the people, there's the next layer of attachment wounds, where they say, okay, I can come to account and take account of the things that I did in kind of the history of this relationship leading up to this moment that caused a lot of conflict and discomfort and problematic whatever. And now I feel tremendously guilty about it. And I feel terrible about the way that I behaved. And now they've made the cut, they've ghosted, they've gone no contact or whatever, and they're gone. And now I just want to go apologize. Like, I see my wrong. I did the wrong thing. I'm a bad boy. Like, just let me talk to me again, speak to me again so that I can come apologize profusely about my behavior. Unfortunately, if we scrutinize that, we find out that the goal is not actually the apology. The goal is reconnection. The goal is to figure out what kind of performance I need to give in order to reestablish connection. And that's almost always the motive. Sure, we can have remorse for our actions, and we can be apologetic, and we can say the words, and we might even be able to take account and be humble about it and do all the good things, right? That might also be true. But if you look at the raw motivational energy and what it is seeking, because you can tell, the motivational energy dissipates once you get the thing it's craving. And so if you get back to the point where the apology has been made and reconnection has happened and they accept you again and they give you validation, approval, and everything else, that like nervous, shame-ridden energy of apologetic remorse dissipates very quickly. So that tells us that that's actually the thing that was craving. Whereas if you make the apology and they don't accept it, or they don't communicate, or they don't validate you afterwards, or they don't want to reconnect, that person maintains, and I've seen this hundreds of times, that raw energy of remorseful pursuit or pursuing some kind of remorseful expression remains, because the system is still trying to get the thing that it's like you made the apology and they may have even accepted it, but they didn't accept you and they didn't initiate a reconnection. And then that person stays in a place where it's like, I'm sorry. What do I need to do? What can I do for you? Nothing I do is good enough. Blah, 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 blah. We hear all these arguments all the time. This is all super interesting, isn't it? Like, I haven't gotten to the point about what the hell's going on with that person. Who would you be if all the fear, anxiety, and chattering thoughts finally went quiet?
Many people in daily lives, they are just holding themselves back And I looked up yoga retreats and all these different things, but nothing quite resonated.
Honestly, I didn't think about it. Just like, I'm going.
Felt like every emotions from every person was valid here.
Allow yourself to be fully yourself.
I think it was a contained environment where you could freely express yourself.
That's a big lesson. It's okay to get close to people. It's okay to share. It's okay to be vulnerable.
And no one will shame whatever feeling you feel. Nobody makes it bad or wrong or even uncomfortable.
They added more than it would have been one-on-one.
Don't be afraid. Don't worry about the money. It's totally worth it.
I did not have the capability of stating my needs and boundaries and possibly disappointing somebody. But in this moment, I could.
Okay, well, let's go there now. So now we got the person on the other side, right? And there's a couple different paths that lead to this point where you've got the cut, as I call it, which is like a great big epic smash down on the connection. Basically says, I'm cutting the connection unilaterally. It's almost always a unilateral decision. In fact, it probably is always a unilateral decision. I am unilaterally deciding this connection is done and over. This friendship is done and over. I am no longer going to communicate with you. I no longer have any interest in that. I'm not going to respond to your messages. You are blocked or archived. And I'm done with this. And yeah, there's a lot of people who think that's cruel, but just wait. Wait until you get inside their head and you realize that it is not really cruel at all. It is just a system in panic trying to find survival, which is what it always is, right? Okay, so we're inside this person's mind and they're saying, I'm unilaterally ending this relationship. What led to that? Was it that conflict? No, almost never. Was it an accumulation of conflicts? Yeah, along with other things. But there's kind of two main, there's probably more, but there's two that I'm going to talk about today. There's the one path, which is oftentimes described in fearful avoidant behavior dynamics. Like if you're going to classify themes, behavioral themes you're going to see with fearful avoidant attachment style, it's going to be this one, which is I desperately desire connection with you, but yet when connection shows up, it feels threatening and scary. And then I want to pull away from it. But yet as soon as it's too far away, then I crave it again. I don't want to be close. And then I want to get away. And then I want to be close. There's this inner conflict happening, an inner war, where that person is saying, I really want this. And that is arising at the emotional level. They're not actually saying the words. They're not thinking the thoughts. The emotions of craving, or the feelings, the physiological sensations of discomfort are arising, and my system's interpreting those sensations as craving, and that if I could just get that thing, these feelings of discomfort would go away. That's important. Let me repeat that for the people in the back. What we are classifying as craving or pursuit is actually a physiological sensations of discomfort, and then a belief that if I pursue that thing and I get my hands on it, that this discomfort will go away. That's the belief. And so that's what creates the very strong motivating force to go chase the thing. I'm trying to get something that will make my discomfort decrease or go away entirely. That's important because that tells us that there's two angles here to resolution, that there's one which is actually to go chase the thing, get the thing, hold the thing, and then the discomfort goes away. There's another one, which is like go here to the discomfort first, ignore the outside, and say, if I figure out a way to resolve this discomfort inside me, my craving energy will decrease. My longing, my craving, my limerent fantasies, my whatever, like all that stuff will decrease or go away entirely if I become comfortable with this discomfort inside me. I make the uncomfortable, comfortable. If I make the uncomfortable less bad. Okay. So they chase to make this discomfort go down, and then they get the thing, and they're like, whew, yay, okay, discomfort has gone away. I feel good now. I'm all excited. Mad sex. I'm in love with you. Let's go on dates, blah, 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 blah. And then a few days, weeks, or months go by, and now this person has a big, strong discomfort arising inside their system. Their physiology is generating signals of discomfort, and then their brain takes that data, this would be subconscious and procedural memory system, takes that data and says, oh, the way that I make this discomfort go away is to get away from this person. And you know what it will do in order to achieve that goal? It will kill your attraction, and it will fill your brain with all sorts of critical thoughts and like, oh, maybe his jaw isn't perfect enough, and maybe I prefer blue eyes instead of brown eyes, and maybe she's not skinny enough, or she's not intelligent enough, or he doesn't have the right kind of law degree, or don't have enough money, or that one time that we were doing that one thing, they did it the way that I don't like it, and blah, blah, blah. So we nitpick. This, like, the brain will fill, the lower system will fill the upper system with a constant stream of nitpicking thoughts that say, this is wrong and that's not right, and this is wrong and that's not right. Why? Why does it do this? It's not because that person's flawed, and it's not because this relationship is not meant to be, or ill-fated, or whatever, blah, blah, blah. It's the reason it does that is because the system is feeling discomfort about what is happening right now, and it's trying to get you the fuck out. Trying to create enough feedback loops that your system will conclude getting away from here is the best option, because that's the only thing it knows. Or that was actually, it's that the system utilized that strategy once upon a time and it was effective. And so now it has that as a marker that says, whatever else is true, we know this, that if we just GTFO, we can make this discomfort go away. And so that's what it does. And it figures out any manipulative, tricky way it can to convince you to do that. So now we got this crazy push-pull system. I'm chasing, I get, yay, oh, uncomfortable again, get away from me. Oh, but if I actually get you far enough away that my discomfort leaves, then you're basically not involved in the relationship anymore, and then I might lose you, and then it's like, oh, now I want you back, and it's push-pull, push-pull, push-pull. And we're not even in the anxious avoidant dance yet. We're just in my own chaos bubble, right? So some will be trapped in that loop because they haven't figured out how to get out of it yet. And then from that loop, they've got this inner war. This is, I can't do this. Like, I can't, I like her, but I don't like her. And I've chased her, and then I decided that then I dumped her. And then I chased her again, and I managed to get her back. And then she came back into my life, but now I can't stand it again, and now I'm going to dump her again. And it's like, boy, I'm being an asshole. I am not stable. I don't trust myself. I don't trust myself in a relationship. If she understands the true reality of who I am, she's going to reject me wholesale, and then I definitely won't get her again, and blah, 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 blah. So the system has this inner conflict going on, and then that just grows and grows and grows. Guess what? Uncomfortably. And the system says, okay, the answer for this is to just cut and run. Don't give any explanation. Don't give answers. Don't, just cut. Get me out of here. Right? And then once it does that, the system goes, okay, not only is the uncertainty and the whatever of the push-pull and do I like her or do I not like her, all of that stress goes away. But now all this added stress about my own distrust, not trusting my own motives and not trusting my own behaviors and not trusting what I actually really want and don't want, and etc. That was creating a lot of stress also. And so now that stress alleviates. And now here I am sitting alone, probably smoking some joint and, doing some solitary hobby or isolating entirely. And that's my system's like, okay, regulation. I have successfully rejected all forms of discomfort. And what does that look like on the outside? They're here, they're here, they're here, and then poof, they vanish. You're like, but I thought we were in a relationship. I thought you were here. I thought I could call, like, are we broken up now? Like, we're not even, what's going on? Right? I'm confused. So that's what it looks like from the outside. And then people that already have, I'm just repeating myself now, but like people that already have unresolved attachment wounds of not enough and unworthy and unlovable and et cetera, all those attachment wounds are going to inflame because they receive this cut, this ghosting, as some kind of indictment of their character and their desirability or whatever. And then they say, oh my God, this is so painful. And how could they do this? This is the most painful thing I've ever endured. It's like, I get that it feels that way. Those feelings are real. Like the feelings are real, the emotions are real, etc. But that's not an accurate way to look at the situation. Just because another person decides to cut off all contact usually has little to no influence or meaning about my worthiness or my value on this earth. But we interpret it as if it was. And of course, I say this all the time, your nervous system doesn't care about what's true. What matters is what your nervous system believes to be true. And in this particular case, it believes that that person cutting contact is an indictment of my desirability, my worthiness, my validity, and my ability to be on this earth, or something like that, right? My value. So it smashes the confidence hard. And now we have a very strong, uncomfortable emotional states. And then our system generates very strong compulsions and motivations in response to those negative emotions to make it be different. And so that's where it happens on the outside. Okay, that's a whole bunch of stuff about being on the outside and the one side, the one aspect that would lead to this big ghosting cut thing. Now I want to talk about the other one. The other one is more tricky, and it seems like it's more sophisticated. And it definitely strikes closer to home for this guy because this is me. This is what I did so many times. These are the cringeworthy moments I'm talking about in my past. So this is what it looks like from the inside. It is, I'm in this relationship, and here's this person across from me. I'm the fearful avoidant one on the inside of the relationship, and I will be bringing the guillotine in a few moments. And I'm in this relationship with this person, and I like this person, right? There's a lot to like about this person, and there's a lot to like about our time together and the way we spend time. The good times are really good, and I like it a lot, but we've been having conflict. And in this conflict, it is revealed yet another incompatibility, another way that we see things differently, another way that our value systems are misaligned. And it turns out that what's been going on for basically the entire relationship, however long it's been, is that my system has been quietly, silently observing my partner. I'm watching the way they handle conflict, the way they handle stress, who they gossip about, how they gossip, how backbitey are they, how judgmental are they if given free rein. Like if you create a safe space for them to vomit out anything they want to say about anybody, how vicious does it get? How hateful are they? How insecure are they? How much does their insecurity influence the way that they navigate stress or navigate relationship or whatever else? I could keep going. This list is extremely long. I am basically sitting here, a quiet judge, constantly observing and watching my partner's behavior, and I'm looking for where it aligns with me and where it doesn't align with me, where it feels good and where it doesn't feel good. And guess what? The list of things that don't feel good is getting longer and longer and longer. And the things that feel good is kind of this same pool of kind of the same things most of the time, right? I know this area. I know how good it feels to be like affectionate and cuddly, or just companionship, or the feeling that I've got a person in this world. And when we go out and we do adventures or take on tasks together, it's like there's all sorts of lovely compatibility and great stuff that we can accomplish together. Yet they're super insecure. They can't manage their emotions in this way. They lose control that way. Blah, 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 right? Like I said, the list is super long. So why don't I talk about this? What we're talking about there is we're talking about like consciously witnessing the relationship and vetting it. You're vetting for compatibility. You're vetting for alignment. You're vetting for similarities, on and on and on, right? I talk about this all the time. This is one of the things I think is super important in relationships. Like, we should be very good at vetting, and we should do it very intentionally and kind of aggressively. So a secure person could be here doing all the same things. So what's the difference between the secure person and this, we're just going to call him fearful avoidant for today? It really can show up across the entire attachment spectrum, insecure attachment spectrum, but we're just going to say it's clustered, it's mostly clustered or has high association with the fearful avoidant types. So what's the difference between these two? Well, the secure person would be seeing elements that they feel are in misalignment, and they have the courage and safety to approach partner and say, hey, partner, I feel like we have some alignment problems here. Let's talk about that. Let's initiate a conflict and then work through that conflict together. So we might actually even have a rupture and then a repair cycle, and a rupture and repair cycle. Conflict, rupture, repair is actually one of the ways that relationships get deeper, more connected, safer, and very high marks for longevity, right? So the secure person may initiate that without fear. They may initiate the discussion of these things that they're observing about partnership, about the partner and the way the partner is in this world, and saying, hey, this is different than the way I do it. When these things happen, it doesn't feel good for me. I'm a little bit concerned about what that means for us, or maybe what that means for our future, or what that would mean in a situation where we have to smash into that particular stressor at the same time and our values are so radically different. Let's talk about that. Let's be forthwith about finding this incompatibility and kind of trying to bring it to balance and reconciliation before the stress is so big that it explodes or causes a dramatic moment or rocks the boat so much people fall out. Like, we don't want that. Let's be proactive about this stuff. Okay, so that's the secure side. Now, on the insecure side, fearful avoidant for today, they don't do that. They sit there and they just quietly watch and observe and judge and make guesses and predictions and conclusions. And they do not initiate the conversation. Why? Well, what's the answer almost always? Fear. They do not initiate that conversation because they're like, if I initiate this conversation, my partner is going to feel judged. We will suddenly be in this moment of acute disconnection because my partner won't be sitting there walking through the world thinking that we're buddy-buddy and we're all grand and there's no problems between us. And that's the thing that allows us to connect. If I initiate a discussion about something I'm displeased with, my partner is going to feel like I'm judging them, and then they're going to go into defensive mode, and then we're going to have a big rupture, and that's going to feel terrible, and I'm going to feel like a jerk, and my partner's not going to be feeling good. So wouldn't it be better if I just don't do that? right? So this like internal calculus that system is doing is saying, don't initiate difficult conversations because it might lead to a point of disconnection and conflict and then rupture. And then that feels yucky. But see, where this gets weird is that that's actually the thing that's needed in order to prove that you can. It's like that subconscious attachment system is watching, evaluating, vetting, and judging the other person to say, are we actually going to be compatible? Can we actually endure difficult times? But not actually initiating a hard enough conversation that we have a hard time so that we can actually grow through it together and allow the other person to respond with their perspective and push back against my assumptions and all that kind of stuff. We avoid all that. All that is being avoided because of the fear of the consequence that will happen if they breach the subject. And then on top of that, and this is kind of where it really gets into fearful avoidant territory, is that there's this kind of weird spinning belief that I am observing the way that you live naturally. I don't want my requests for change to enter into your decision matrix. I don't want my preferences for food to influence the decision you're going to make about where we go for dinner. Because if we go to the pizza place, I don't know if you chose that because you wanted to, or you chose it only because you're pleasing me. You're trying to placate me and make me feel okay. I don't want to communicate. I don't want to ask for you to change in any way, because if I ask you to change in any way, then suddenly you're not being authentic. And I'm here trying to vet you as your authentic expression of self. So I don't initiate those conversations. That's another reason I don't initiate the conversations. That's another reason why I sit here and quietly vet, watch, and judge. I'm super guilty of this in my past. And then honestly, it's been a survival behavior that has really got claws in there, and it keeps arising. I'm like, oh yeah, this one again. And then I kind of go through all this work to kind of calm it down, try to get real, practice some skills, all that kind of stuff. But this is one that's like, because it's from the point of view of that attachment system and the things it has experienced in the past, this is a very seemingly sophisticated, advanced strategy when it really isn't. There's these assumptions being made that my interpretation of my partner's behavior and all this kind of like watching, judging, vetting thing that I'm doing is actually going to give me a more accurate picture than the picture I would see if I actually did make a request and I did let them rise to the occasion and I did let them navigate conflict. Like, what would it feel like if we actually did easily initiate conflict, have a minor rupture, go through a repair cycle, reconnection, and then everything's bigger and stronger and better than before? It's like we're lopping all that off. We're preventing that loop from happening because we're afraid of the disconnection part. We're afraid of the rupture part, which more accurately is we're afraid of the uncomfortable physiological feelings that will arise inside me when during these moments that I am in a state of rupture with my partner. So where does that lead us? Where does that lead this nervous system that I've been talking about, this person that's dealing with all this inner turmoil? Because see, they're watching all these different traits about their partner. They think they're getting a clear view of who that person is and how they operate. And remember, this is both friendships and romantic relationships, and it can also be family and everything else. And then here's kind of the way the internal thought process works, because I'm saying, I've done this many times, is that a moment of conflict happens, this one conflict, whatever it was. And then you're dealing with there's these uncomfortable feelings about it. There might be activations of shame. There might be activations of doubt about like, did I perceive this right? Or maybe that person was a jerk, or this whole thing was blown out of proportion. Whatever the thing is, the conflict happened. And now you're yes, there's some uncomfortable feelings inside, but there's actually, most of it is cognitive. Most of it is this massive decision matrix that's going on inside your brain. And you're like, well, this one's a problem and that one's a problem. And I don't really see this one changing. And I really don't like this aspect of the way that they operate. And that's a part of who they are. And I don't expect that to ever change in any way unless we do a ton of work around it. And it's like, what a drag or heavy or whatever that's going to be. And then I've got these things about myself that they don't even know about yet, that they're going to be super judgmental about. And then we're going to have to go through that too. And blah, 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 right? I talked about how the list is long. So you go through this like massive long list of the things you've observed about this person that are not, they're really misaligned. And then you're also thinking about all the aspects of yourself that you haven't even come to the surface yet. And you're just like, what are we doing here? This conflict right now is just like, it's literally, it's the straw that broke the camel's back kind of a situation. It's that this conflict right now is, we are in a state of rupture. And why do I bother putting any effort into repair? Like, this has been a drain for quite some time. We are clearly incompatible in all these different ways. I've been judge, jury, and executioner of this relationship. Well, I've been judge and jury of this relationship, and now I'm actually going to take on the mantle of executioner. And I'm unilaterally just deciding that I don't want to do this anymore. And it is not actually an indictment of the other person. It is not like that person's a jerk, I hate them, I'm trying to punish them, blah, blah, blah. It's none of that. You can actually do this with a great deal of compassion, honestly. You can look at it and say, I see these things about them. I really admire and respect. And I thought we were in alignment on these ways, and we're just not. And I'm really sad about this. But it seems to be for the best, because I don't see any path. This is really what it is. I don't see any path moving forward where we can actually come into alignment. And I'm sad about that. And I might even have to grieve that in the future. For that person, the cut or the vanishing act or the bringing the guillotine down in the relationship, that's not being done out of anger or resentment or vitriol or any of that other stuff. It's actually, this whole thing is played out this way because they have strong attachment, because they cared enough about that relationship to keep staying and keep performing, keep showing up in the best way they can, because they like something about what's here. But the other person doesn't know that they've basically been being evaluated and tested nonstop for some God knows period of time. And so this cut is not sudden from the inside. It looks like it from the outside, but from the inside, this is actually the final step of a long culmination of evidence gathering, evidence that they believe is truthful or an accurate depiction of the situation. And this is basically the final moment where they say, okay, I can't keep carrying this. I can't keep performing. I can't, it's disingenuous for sure. I feel out of integrity with myself. And if we try to make this work, it's just going to hurt the other person. I've had this conversation a few times. I've actually been on both sides of it. But I'm thinking of the times that I was the executioner and sitting with someone that had, to their perception, they had no idea it was coming. If to my perception, I'm like, there was signs all over the place, but okay, you just chose not to see them. But okay, fine. We'll just say that the signs were not as clear as I thought they were. But we're sitting there having the talk, and that person is like, they're just dumbfounded. They're totally surprised that this is showing up with such certainty. It's not like, hey, maybe we should take a break. It's not, hey, maybe we should, honestly, okay, I'm thinking about it now and I'm like, those conversations that I'm thinking of now are actually after I've already challenged myself to not do the silent cut. So that's not entirely accurate. There's the ones where it's just like, Vip, I'm out. Those are usually friendships. And then there's the ones that are the romantic ones. And it's like, I owe this person an explanation. I owe this person time of sitting together, not over text message, of sitting together face to face, eye to eye, maybe holding hands. And I'm going to intentionally sit there with all this discomfort that is happening inside me as I make my statement and I bring this relationship to an end. I'm trying to do it in the most respectful, loving, graceful way possible, which means I need to stay present as they go through their whole emotional arc. So I kind of skipped over a step there, but that's the practice that I challenged myself to face the discomfort and sit with it for a while as a way of honoring the other person, as a way of doing this gracefully. And so that's kind of one of the messages here for people that might find themselves in these dynamics where you're stuck in a relationship where you have been maybe nitpicking or maybe truly vetting the other person, and the evidence keeps piling up and piling up and piling up. And all the evidence basically says, well, not all of it, but a preponderance of evidence says this is a dead-end road. It would be most loving and most respectful for both parties if this was brought to an end. Yet there's still enough evidence that says this is a good thing and I still like them. And then you have that inner war, creates a lot of discomfort, increases stress level. Your system is like, I want to get out of this stress. Get me out of here. Let's end this. And then the guillotine comes down. So if you're one of those people that's ever brought the guillotine down on a relationship and you're just like, shut the door, don't look back, move on, and then that friendship is done, over, in the rearview mirror, and you will never invest in it again, if that's the kind of person you are, well, this video was for you. And if you're the kind of person that was been on the receiving end of that, friendship, romantic, or family, and you've been on the receiving end of someone that just shows up and just goes, blam, relationship over. They don't even say it. They just do it. And you're sitting there with your head spinning. I hope that we've talked about enough reasons why that is, that you can at least have some kind of compassion for it. Now, some people will think that's asking a lot, because it's like, well, where was their compassion for me when they did their whole thing? And that's a true statement. I mean, that's a fair way of looking at it. Yeah, it's always just a nervous system in crisis, trying to find its way back to safety and using whatever tools it has at the moment that have the highest likelihood of getting it there. And so for those of us out there that have done the hard cut, the guillotine, the ghost into oblivion, that's the way our system is trying to find safety. And the way that we kind of counteract that, the way we counteract it on both sides, is to spend time intentionally sitting with those that where we have that skin crawling discomfort. This skin crawling discomfort is our cue to say that's actually what we need to face. It's not what we need to avoid. It's what we need to face intentionally. We need to look at those moments and get as close to them as we can so that the skin crawling discomfort is percolating upward in intensity, and sit there with a moment and say, what is this all about? Why is this so uncomfortable to me? And just do those reps many, many times. But that's a whole topic for another video. Okay, I hope that's been helpful. I hope that's been informative and insightful for some of the people out here that have faced that kind of challenge. Thank you for watching. I wish you the best.